What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It FC. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr. And joining me is my good man, Shanair Grant the second. What's going on, my man?
Yes. I'm doing good, doing
It's been
good.
a while.
Hoping I don't lose power in this snowstorm, but
Oh,
second
yeah, we don't
snowstorm
need
of
to
the
repeat
winter.
of that.
Nah, but I'm
we,
ready this time. If it happens, it's not going to be bad. We'll be all right.
well, there we go. There we go. It's been a while since we've done these, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a
It's
minute.
been a while.
Well, we got something special today, so
Yeah.
I'm I'm
Well,
I'm
let's go
I'm
ahead.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready to
Yeah.
dive right into this.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's dive into it. We have this week's profile on Mr. Viv Anderson. Um, and it was kind of cool, interesting going into his story because for those who don't know, V. Anderson is one of the first people of color to play for the English national team, one of the very first. And when you think about England and everything that comes along with it, and how diverse England is from Africa, the Caribbeans, it's kind of surprising to see that he is. I wouldn't say it's not surprising to see that he's the first, but it's surprising to see when it happened in the time period and why isn't he talked about more when you look at how diverse the English national team is now.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a situation where you're going from let's see, when did it, yeah, basically probably about 40, 50 years ago. he's the first person to he's the first black player to wear the England jersey, to wear the four lions. But then you're looking 40 years later, we're looking at practically almost an all black squad.
Yeah, an all black team that can possibly play for my Jamaican national team. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I mean this. So I think the best way how to go about his career is that you got to look at it from two parts. You got to look at it from his playing career, but then also his international career. So I think we'll start off first with his playing career, and then go into his international career. And this is something that caught my attention, and I never knew this until we did the research on it. He was a part of those Nottingham Forest Champions League winning teams, which, for those who don't know, like when you start going into soccer history, you start learning about, different eras, different clubs within England or whatever throughout Europe. That Nottingham Forest team is always talked about as like this legendary squad with
Yep.
what was it, Clough, Brian Clough is the head coach. And they came up from
Mm-hmm.
Division 2, won the England League, won Champions League, and then a couple years later, kind of school to 90s, you get relegated and they haven't been back up to the top flight. But he was a
Yeah,
part of
and
that team.
yeah,
Oh yeah, you want to say your
it
point?
kind of shows you. It kind of shows you. I mean, it shows you such a difference between that time and now, because you look at Anderson is born in Nottingham. So you're
Yeah,
looking at a time where a lot of players were playing from the area they were from. And it goes to show you how back then it was about the talent, it was about where the talent was being pulled from, and all of that. And that's where you see this fabled Nottingham Forest team winning the European Cup. But then once the 90s hit and big money starts coming in, the Premier League is now in effect, and you see the clubs like your Manchester United, your Liverpools, your Chelseas, your Arsenals, the ones that have the big money are the only ones that are able to survive. And all of these fabled teams that have such a big history, your Leeds United, your Nottingham Forest, just start to crash and burn because that's not the way they were built, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're true, and that's a whole conversation that we can definitely get into. But to your point about that, like V. Anderson, he played for a lot of big name teams, but I don't know. When we go through his career, I wanted to see if you're going to pick up on the same trend as me. It seemed like he was a part of these teams, but he came a part of these teams at moments where they were either coming out of ascendancy or about to go into ascendancy, but he left at that opportune moment. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, he played at Nottingham Forest, played at Arsenal, played at Manchester United, Sheffield Wednesday, Barnsley, Middlesbrough. Now, obviously, the last two lower division teams he kind of played the rest of his career, but Arsenal, I believe he played, if I got my notes right,
He played for
right
3 years.
Sir Alex got there. Yeah.
Yep.
So right before, I want to say, when did Sir Alex get there? Like 87?
For United, I think it
Yeah.
was around that time. It was around the late '80s. It's
Yeah.
crazy because
So
that was around the time I was born, and Sir Alex has been a part of the Manchester United story since then.
yeah, very crazy. But like, so he's a part of Arsenal, but this is Arsenal when I think they're about to win the league title, but he doesn't really have a lot of time there. He goes to Man United right when Sir Alex gets there. He's one of the first transfers, but he's not really part of the team's winning major trophy. I don't know. But when we talk about it, definitely. So, first of all, let's focus on his time at Nottingham Forest because I think this is the most unique part of his journey career. Like he's one of the first prominent African. Well, not, I can't say African Americans. One of the most prominent Black people to win a Champions League. And for those who don't really follow European soccer like that, the Champions League is like an international version of the Super Bowl. Like if you win it, you're goated. Like
Yes,
no one can
exactly.
tell you anything.
The Champions League is the mecca. It's where every player dreams of. That's the trophy every young kid around the world who plays soccer dreams of lifting, and to know that I mean, it's the best of the best, and it I can you can
Yeah.
listen to a lot of different players talk about it. They said like this is where the best of the best play. The world class players end up in the Champions League.
Yeah. And so he broke into the first team in 74. And of course, during this time, during 74, racial abuse was on. It still was a thing. It still is a thing in today's game, but it's not
Yeah.
as crazy as it was during the 70s and how that time period was. And he talks about a story, I think he was talking about in The Guardian, about how he was one of the first Black starters in European football.
Mm-hmm.
And he was pelted with bananas and rocks. And he talks about this one time where he was talking to his head coach and he was just like, I don't feel comfortable going out there. Like he said he went out for warm-ups, he was ready to go play, and they were throwing bananas, rocks at him, doing monkey chants. And mind you, this isn't like Eastern Europe. This is like in England. I can't remember exactly where he was playing at, but he was just saying how he told Clough, he was like, I can't go out there. Like I physically can't. And Clough was like, well, you're playing, so get out there. And he said it affected his game so much, but you think about it in context of how today's game is, and about how we're trying to make strides in racial equality and trying to make sure that Black players feel like an equal feeling to their counterparts. But in those time periods, it wasn't no real sympathy. It was kind of just like, well, just block it out and just deal with it, But that's not something an athlete or a human should have to deal with.
And I think one thing we can attest that is something that caused it. It was the cause for Anderson having to deal with it more so and feeling isolated and alone in his struggle is we can thank the internet for that. We can thank the advancement of technology to the point where more people around the world are sympathetic to the situation because it's more out there, it's more visible. You can see more so what's happening. And if we were to go back to some of the more serious issues of racial abuse, for example, here in the United States, it's gotten more visceral today than it was in the time of, let's say, Rodney King. Rodney King, it's what the media wanted to show you. Now it's what anybody's phone camera picks up, and that brings things more straight to people's faces, and it's getting to the point where you're getting more people that are saying, "Okay, enough is enough. I didn't know it was this bad." And back then, you can almost understand that a lot of his probably his teammates, his coaches, the media are thinking to themselves, "Oh, he should just suck it up and keep playing. Ignore them. Suck it up. Keep playing."
Yeah.
But now it's more understood that this is really affecting the psyche of these players. It's affecting how the game is viewed, how the game is played, and how the game is coveted by people around the world and people of color, people of different nationalities, and it's becoming put to the light that, oh my goodness, it's not just us. You know what I mean? It's not just us. I remember hearing some of the chants and songs of players like um, Ji Sung Park for Manchester United, and I'm like, okay, that's extreme. Like, why is this happening? And now with the internet, with things being more out there, it's like, okay, this is serious. We need to do something about this. But it took people like Viv, people like Ian Wright, people like players of that generation that were breaking into that, the select few that were making it across that threshold to muscle through it for us to see it now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And he even talks about how he felt as if he didn't have a voice. He didn't feel like anyone was there to back him. Like it was kind of like I'm here doing it by myself. It's I don't want to equate it to Jackie Robinson because what Jackie went through was a unique case of his own. It's almost one of those things where you're the first to do something, but you don't have anyone there in your corner that can relate with you. And thus in yourself, you don't feel open enough to be like, well, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what's going on with me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so I applaud any player that any person of color that played during this era because it is tremendously tough. It was tremendously tough and everything. But talking about his Nottingham Forest size, like I said, he was one of the first. He was the first black starters in Europe. Went on to win Champions Leagues there. Had a great career there. Even got a call up to England in '78. So this is an interesting thing that I figured out. He was the second ever non-white to represent England. The first was Paul Rudney in 1968. And the reason why I say I say first non-white is because Paul Rudney was mixed and
Hmm.
Coach Viv Anderson was black. So that's a cool
Yeah.
fact. Maybe you can use that for upcoming Black History Month or Black History Month. If you're listening to this episode now. But his ink career kind of took a stall there. So he kind of moves on to Arsenal when Nottingham Forest is kind of going to the quote rebuild. He moves for $2,500,000 to Arsenal, wins the League Cup final there. Not a real lot going on there, but when Sir Alex comes to England in 1987 from Aberdeen, Sir Alex brings him in to be part of the rebuild. And so for those who know, VV
Yeah.
Anderson's spot was that of a left back. He was a left back at this time. He wasn't an attacker or anything like that. He was a left back, but Sir Alex liked this game so much that he was like, look, I kind of need a veteran. I need someone that understands it. If I'm going to rebuild this team from the floor up, I need someone that can come in and help me. So he, while he was there in Man United, won 3 major tournaments. He got 0 minutes. He was on the bench for these tournaments, which is hilarious. Like you're supposed to be part of the rebuild. You're kind of like the face of the rebuild, but you don't get any time in tournaments. But in that,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was yeah, he was there. But he was a part of the historic FA Cup winning team, even though he wasn't selected for the final cup, the final game itself, because Paul Ince got selected. He's kind of, I wouldn't want to say, and we're both Man United fans, but I don't think Vivi Anderson is spoken out in Man United folklore like Paul Ince is kind of looked at. And Paul Ince even isn't really talked about as much because of the move later to Liverpool, right? If I remember right.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like you have these two guys that are legends of the game, but they're not really talked about in Man United low folklore because of the fact of where they went, where they came from, or where they went to in their parts of their career. Yeah. So after all this happens, you kind of, I don't know what it is, what about athletes, but they're kind of just like, they know they should hang it up, but they're just like, I want to keep playing. It's almost like the Cristiano Ronaldo. It's not like Cristiano Ronaldo, but it's almost like Shaq. You remember how Shaq left?
And
Jordan. He left the Heat. Yeah, Shaq and Jordan. Like, in fact, Shaq is the perfect example of this. When Shaq left the Suns, everyone knew, like, all right, it's a wrap. Like, dude, you are done. Like, just let it go. Then he went. He went to the Suns. Yeah, he won a title to Heat, but I think after that he went to the Suns. He went to the Celtics. Went to the Cavs. I'm trying to think where else he go. He went somewhere else, but it was like weird. Like, there's a picture, I'll never forget it, of Shaq, and they have him in every jersey that he played in, but it resembles the rainbow. And I'm like, dude, it's time to let it go.
Exactly. It's time to hang it up. Hang it up, bro.
But that was kind of like the name of Viv Anderson. I mean, not discredit his career or anything like that, because playing football at the top level is hard. But he went to Sheffield Wednesday, and I think he kind of had a rejuvenation at Sheffield Wednesday, kind of, because he joined on the free in January '91. It quickly captained the team and helped the team to promotion to the first division. So it was their first year in the Prem. Their first year in the Prem, they finished 3rd and 7th. First 2 years in the Prem. And this is a team who just got relegated. I mean, just got promoted. So that, I mean, imagine if that happened now. That's like if Norwich, not Norwich, because they're not a good example, but like QPR. You're on mute.
That's like QPR or Fulham going, you know.
Yeah. Like QPR getting promoted and being like, you know what, guys, we're going to go 3rd. And then we're going to finish 7th the next year. Like, it's insane. But he went to 2 cup finals. Well, didn't win the cup finals. But he had a period at player manager when he went to Barnsley. But he left after they avoided relegation. He kind of looked at it. And then Middlesbrough, where he kind of finished out his career. He didn't really play a whole bunch. He was kind of there to be like a manager, like a player manager almost like
exactly. Like Rooney at Derby.
Yeah, like he was kind of like he got named to the roster, but he wasn't there to be a player. He was kind of there to be a manager. And that's what he kind of did for the rest of his career. But the unique thing about him, and I guess this is the point we can talk about now about his England career, is he reminds me a lot of when we did the story on Ian Wright, of like, here's this amazing player, but he can never crack through the English national team. You know?
Yeah.
Like, so, like I said, he got called up in 78. He's the first non-black person to ever play for England. So you imagine how, like, what that storyline had to be about, how people were kind of pushing it as, like, well, England's just doing this because, just as idiots would like to say it now, politically correct. They're doing it because they're trying to be a feel-good story, things like that. And the manager at the time, Ron Greenwood, he actually had to have a press conference about this.
Yeah.
I know I'm talking a lot, but this story was like very unique. I think I even texted you. I was like, something about this don't seem right.
Exactly.
Something don't seem right. Like, they're going way out of their way to make sure this is not seeming like, hey guys, we're not doing this for media. We actually like him. He's one of the good ones.
We actually think he's quality.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy because now today that doesn't need to happen. Because you look at France, you look at England. It's basically all black players. They ain't got to say nothing.
I think even a point now, I think 5 players on the German national team are black? And like 10 years ago, that was
no.
No.
That was not
like, Italy has 2 black players.
Mm-hmm.
France is almost all black. England's all black, mostly. Germany. The only one we haven't cracked yet is Spain. Oh, Fati. Never mind. We cracked it.
Yeah, there
Fati.
you go. Fati's in there. Portugal's got a bunch of black players
Right.
because of Curacao and Cape Verde. The
Hopefully they
Netherlands.
let us manage these teams soon and not give us a hard time about that. But that's a different story for a different day. Let's get back to V. Um, so like I was saying, Coach Rod Greenwood, he said that pretty much he earned it on meta, like you were saying. Like he earned it because he's a two-time Champions League winner. He's a Premier League, I mean not Premier League, he's an English League winner with Nottingham Forest. Of course he earned it. Like he's the best left back out here. But because of political push, he had to come out and say this and say, like, hey, he earned his spot. Like, he's good enough. But the thing about this also was, if you kind of look at how his career went, if he did good with England, he would have a team. He was there a long time. But as soon as he would not do well with England, he would lead a team, and it was kind of just like, oh well, now I'm out of a team, so I have to go somewhere else where I can go play. And it was like these ebbs and flows of he's doing good in England, all right, he's successful in his career. He's doing bad in England, he'll leave. So his Indian career started off the stall in Nottingham Forest, because they were starting to age him out. And when Greenwood left England in replacement with Bobby Robson, he was very selected until '84, in which England missed the Euros.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about England missing the Euros that are just like, maybe we need some guys that actually are good.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happened around '90, and they were just like, there's an issue here. Oh, but I mean, like Arsenal. He moves to Arsenal. He gets back into the England team.
Yeah.
He gets out of England. He leaves Arsenal. Same thing with Man United. He moves to Man United. He's back into the England team. What's Man United? Don't need him anymore. He falls out. Okay, well, let me move somewhere else.
And that shows the discrepancy, and it's something that still is an issue today with regards to associating national team players with the big five, with the big six. And it's very hard if you're not a part of the big six to be considered for the national team.
Yeah, unless you're like an outstanding talent that should be in a big six club, you're just at a smaller team. And not to discredit anyone, but like think of someone like who's the CDM for Leeds? I don't want to get his name wrong, but he's a good example. Phelps. Is it Phelps or Phillips? Yeah. But he's someone that could be in a big six club. He's just not. But they know, like, okay, he's a very good talent. Like we have to have him in. Or like Declan Rice. He's not part of that big six. And granted, West Ham are a big club, but they're not part of the big six. But you have to include him
because of his talent. Yeah.
He's a good talent.
But then you look on the other side, you look at a player such as Jack Grealish doesn't really get the call up until it looks like he's leaving Aston Villa.
Yeah.
To go to a bigger club. And at the end of the day, Jack Grealish has been a phenomenally talented player for a long time.
My Aston Villa career mode in 2019 would like to thank this man for winning the Champions League for me. Just want to put that out there. But Sinead, I want to ask you this question, man. And obviously, like we're both born into the diaspora of Caribbeanness and things like that, but you're a little bit more familiar with it because you have family also in England. Like, what is it about being in England that is like playing a part of the national team is like super duper important? Let me rephrase that. Well, like, not super duper important, but it's like I would reject playing for my country of birth, like Haiti, like Curacao, and wait for the European team to call me up. And when it looks like that's not about to happen, then I'll move back.
Well, that's a situation of and a lot of times we see that we've seen that for a long time here in the United States with dual citizens. You look at the certain players that have made the U.S. national team that have dual citizenship. You're looking at it and you're like, you're on the U.S. national team because you know you weren't going to make the German squad or the English squad or whatever other country that their parentage is from. With people that have moved to, let's say, some your family moves to England when you're a child and you grow up in England, you grow up going to academies in England. Yeah, you have that connection to Jamaica or Trinidad or Barbados or whatever. But at the end of the day, is Barbados or Trinidad really gonna go anywhere internationally? England is the team that has the better chance of bringing you notoriety. It's more of and this may sound cold and crass, but it's more of a business move. It's more of an idea of I will be looked at a higher level if I play for England than if I play for Jamaica or if I play for Trinidad. Or in the case of French players, I will have a much better career if I accept the French national team over Senegal or Cote d'Ivoire or whatever Cameroon. So you're looking at if you look, for example, imagine a player like Kylian Mbappe. Imagine what happens if he decides to play for his parents' home country. He's not he's not the youngest player after Pele to win a World Cup. You know, he's not he doesn't get that story. He doesn't get that level of clout that he would with the French national team. And that's the simplest answer. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at people like this. I remember seeing some interviews with Daniel Sturridge and players of that nature, and you still hear the patois slip in there. They still have that connection to Jamaica. They still have that, but they know that I'm going to be more successful if I make the England national team. If I don't make the England national team, if I go through the youth system and it doesn't look like I'm ever going to make the English national team, oh yeah, I know I can just show up to camp for Jamaica and I'm making that team. So it's basically like those countries are basically their safety net if they don't make, you know, the big one.
Hmm. Maybe that's our episode we can talk about one day. I mean, we
Yeah.
kind of delve into. I feel like that's something we always talk about every time we do one of these. We always kind of go into this conversation. We definitely went into when we talked about the French national team with just about. It always comes down to a business move. What it
Yeah.
feels like. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a poetic at heart. I'm just like choose the culture. Choose the culture.
Yeah, you sometimes you think to yourself, like, where would a lot of these countries be if they didn't? Um, at the end of the day, if you take it even outside of sports, where would the United States be if
Oh,
we didn't? Even
100%.
outside of sports, like you look at.
I can tell you this right now. I will bet on one hand. France would have never won a World Cup if if they were not able to use players that were born in other countries.
Oh, definitely not. France would have never been able to win the World Cup. You look
Cameroon
at
and Nigeria would have been powerhouses.
definitely Cameroon, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Senegal, um, even Ghana.
Morocco.
Jamaica would have been a powerhouse. Curacao would have been a powerhouse. But at the end of the day, Europe is the mecca of the sport.
Yeah.
And if you can get in Europe, you're golden.
Yeah, true.
Europe is the mecca of the sport at the end of the day. At the end of the day, someone could be winning every year, could be playing for a club in Colombia or Venezuela or Brazil even and winning the league every year. And they'll be looked at like, yeah, but that's South America though. You look, for example, why a lot of people argue that Maradona was better than Pele is because Maradona played in Europe and Pele didn't. And that shows you like that's where the best of the best come. And if you are there, if you're playing for an Arsenal, a Real Madrid, a PSG, a Juve, uh, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, you want to say, okay, I need to stay here. I'm not going to play for these big, giant clubs, have a citizenship in these big countries that make the World Cup with a one hand tied behind their back every 4 years. to play for a club to play for a country that most likely won't even make it to the World Cup.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for most of them.
I don't know. I just think about it in terms like, yeah, you just hate to see legends of the game like V. Anderson, for instance, or look, a Paul Isar, Ian Wright. They would have happened to be like, you know what, all right, it's cool playing for England, but I could go somewhere where I am respected. To like you mentioned, like I'm guaranteed to play. I might not make the World Cup, but I'm in a culture, I'm in a safe space of people that like me. I kind of think about it like the HBCU versus PWI debate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a great debate or anything, but it just the simplest of it, of like I could go to a place where I am the minority already, or I could go to a place where I am the majority and be in a safe space where I'm still in the ecosystem of being that minority as well. So I was just thinking about it that way. But let's go ahead and just wrap this story up, man. Anything else before we wrap up?
Not really. I mean, one thing I do realize with Viv is that apart from all of the racial issues and the notoriety of being um the first black player to play for the England national team.
Happy New Year from the Fullback podcast, soccer podcast for us, by us. In our first episode of 2022, we're joined by fellow Cultureverse member and the writer of the Soccer She Wrote blog, Mariah Lee. We talk about her recent move from Scotland to Denmark, the differences between food in those two countries, basketball and soccer, all the traditions, and more. Join me, Grego, Silves, and Yogi on your favorite podcast apps and the FTC UTD YouTube channel at 2centsfc.com.
It's commendable that Viv basically kept his life under wraps, did not get into any trouble, and just basically lived wasn't in the tabloids for any crazy nonsense, and that may be a step in the direction of where we are today, with it being a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, we're selecting him for the national team. Oh, he's black. So what? He's good.
Bring him in.
Bring him in. Your Rashfords, your Marcus Greenwoods, your Kyle Walkers, you're flipping it over to the France team. You're Kylian Mbappe, Pogba, Kimpembe. Those players are going to always be looked at like, yeah, it doesn't matter if he's black. Mbappe scores goals and he's probably one of the fastest players in the world. Sign him, or try and keep him here, make him play for the Blues. And it's the same thing with England, and it's because of that situation. Now imagine if Vivian comes onto the scene and all of a sudden he's in the tabloids for driving under the influence or crashing.
Yeah. I mean, you know how that goes with us. Like it's the same thing. Like we're expected to go to so many hoops and boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're supposed to wrap this up, but this is a good conversation. Like it's like when you look at the NFL and the black head coaches of how, like David Cooley down in Houston, who just got fired. Now this man went 4-13. If you just look at the record, it'll be like, all right, cool, I understand it. But you fired him after you handed him a franchise whose quarterback pretty much can't play the entire year. The franchise quarterback because of sexual assault. You got a reshuffle defense, a reshuffle offensive line, a whole bunch of guys that are 6'7" free agent draft picks, and he's expected to go out here and win 10 games? Like what? But meanwhile, Matt Rule's in Charlotte fumbling the franchise. He signed two starting quarterbacks. They still can't win no more than 5 games, but he don't get fired. Or you got Joe Johnson that was up in New York. He just got let go, but they had to wait until the GM retired to fire him. But Joe Judge out here running quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9. Like what? Like I'm just saying, like stuff like that doesn't. When we say we want an opportunity, we don't mean you have to hire another black person to hire us.
Yeah.
Hire me or play me because I'm the best person.
On merit. It has to be on merit, and that's one thing that one of the main reasons why you see a lot of black Europeans, black Americans look at sports as their way out because it's always portrayed like I get in off merit. If I can score 30 goals a season at the top level, they have to take me. If I can do a triple double every other game, they have to take me. If I can run over 300 yards every game and score 2 touchdowns or make 3 interceptions every game, they have to take me. And it's one of those situations where you feel that yes, there are issues of race, but there's a lot of it that a lot of them feel growing up and being naive, thinking to themselves, race isn't as much of an issue. So just because I'm black, if I'm good enough, that doesn't matter. And it's sad that that's the reason why sports is always a go-to, but sports and entertainment, I should say.
Yeah.
But that's where it comes from. And it's crazy to see that even in that factor, that's still not the case. You look at, for example, how long it took before black quarterbacks were respected. How long it took before even in the United States, black soccer players were trusted in the middle of the field. It was always striker, winger, because you can run fast, and it's crazy. It's crazy, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it has been, and now we're getting to a point where things are opening up more. You're seeing like there are myriad black quarterbacks in the NFL, or have been for the past 5-10 years. You're looking at players like Jermaine Jones playing in the middle of the field. You're looking at players like I'm drawing a blank here. I mean, you're looking at a situation where we just recently, not too long ago, the United States went out for a game. I can't remember what tournament it was in. I think it was a qualifying match where literally every single player.
I think it was. What was it? I think it was during Gold Cup, and it was like an all black.
An all black starting 11.
Yeah,
and
and that's something unique.
It's very unique. It's extremely unique, and you're looking at a situation where basically the French Africa, won the World Cup, and
which, by the way, go and listen to that episode. It's 2 parts. Go listen to it.
Yes, 2 parts to it. Yes, it was a good episode. Very good episode.
We're supposed to be ending this podcast. God. All right, I'm sorry, folks. This is how we go. We talk about topics and we talk about the death. These are definitely conversations that we can have ongoing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you feel our frustration. You have the same frustrations, but just know that on a podcast like this, we're going to give players their flowers before it's too late, and we're going to give players their merits before it's too late.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think this is a good way how to wrap up the story of V. Anderson, and just also put a nice bow on it. He went to Nottingham Forest, gave him his flowers. They named him to the all-time 11. He was the greatest left back in Nottingham Forest history. He's in the England Hall of Fame, and he got his MBE as well. So we put a nice bow on that as well. We're back. We're back. All right. Yes, any last thing for you, Shanir?
I think I'm good.
All right, cool. I gotta check. As always, listeners, we want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day for listening to our show. We took a break. This year has been hectic. It's been crazy. We're going into year 2. This whole pandemic thing should be over, but it's not. It's a struggle. I'm a teacher. Shanir is coaching. It's hard, but we enjoy doing moments like this because this is our break from the world, and we love it. We love bringing you guys these episodes. We love having you guys tell us, some cool things that you learned. So as always, thank you and enjoy your day. We'll holler at you guys later. Be safe. Be easy.